Hey, everybody. It's time for a special edition Coffee with Martha podcast. We're watching scary movies this time, and we're ripping off of Red Letter Media while we do it. Got cameras set up, we got our reactions, watching these terrible movies. Um, and boy, were they terrible. Perhaps we should start with our first film. And this was a horrible anthology thing. Freaking, we couldn't make it through the second one. Um, but basically,
Tales of Halloween.
yeah, that's what it's called.
Attention, all you trick-or-treaters.
It's time to get your ghoul on. For tonight is All Hallows Eve.
Man, our camera's better than hers. That's saying something.
It's just the art style. Horrible quality. That's the art style. What the heck? That was like, this is like Google Maps Street View.
And this movie made me want to kill myself.
With us tonight. Billy, you love candy, right?
First movie. Failure.
Sorry, guys, we're gonna have to stop this recording and then burn it.
I mean, there was like one moment where I was like, okay, that's kind of at least somewhat interesting. But for most of the movie, we have the reveal of the creature, and the reveal of the creature is pretty good because initially you're left thinking that the main villain is a child. But the interesting thing about our villain is, for some reason,
He's
they
a
made him
goblin.
a goblin in the future, and we don't know why. It's never explained.
No way.
Timmy ate all the candy he could find inside his parents.
Trick or treat.
Mikey?
I don't get it, though. Why is Billy a demon?
That was a scary ghoul.
I know. Why is he a ghoul?
But yeah, we watched the entire first film, by the way.
Yeah.
Didn't we?
All like 10 minutes.
Yeah, and that was hard to get through.
Yeah, that
Felt
was.
like 6 hours.
Billy just needed to keep eating his candy, you know? He wanted more.
But he wanted more.
He sucked.
Yeah, so the premise is of our goblin's origin story, if you will. He walks in on his parents not doing what you think they'd be doing, but they're eating his candy on Halloween. And you know what? He's not having that. And yeah, then they start to get a little busy with it. They start making out and stuff. And
Then they pass out.
and his name was really Billy? Are you
I don't
kidding?
know. It probably wasn't.
It was. No, it probably was.
Timmy loved Halloween. He loved to dress up. Most of all, he loved trick-or-treating.
If it's Billy, then
I mean, what else are we to do?
it's Billy now. Anyways, and he's super upset by now. He's fuming. So of course he just gets a meat cleaver and kills his parents.
Oh. Well, I don't think it merited just killing them.
Sorry, Mom, but you know.
It's pretty comical how his dad is terrified of him with the meat cleaver and is slowly crawling away, even though he has no visible injuries to his legs. Crawling away from this child who's
No.
holding a meat cleaver.
No.
What do you mean? It's a child. He can't. He's scared of a child.
No, please.
No, please. He takes it from him and just starts killing himself.
And yeah, it's terrible. But he kills them, and then he eats all of the candy. And the whole point of Billy's character is he always wants more. So his parents are eating the candy, and maybe there's still some of that sitting inside of them. So he rips their intestines out and eats the candy that was digesting in their intestine.
Delicious. He sucks it out like a
Yeah.
straw. Off screen.
But he still wants more, of course.
Yeah. And then the people are telling this story, right? It's not just like a random story. They're telling this scary story to this young kid to make him scared, and then they eat all of that kid's candy, and they get
it's one of those where they tell this scary story and then it turns out to be true, and it's like a boyfriend and girlfriend, and like I think it's the girlfriend's younger brother, and they're telling him the story, and he's like getting spooked, but then they get their comeuppance when Billy turns out to be a real goblin.
a real goblin.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Balding, blue, no skin on the jaw.
Goblin.
Quite a sight for sore eyes.
Yep. And so they get killed, right? And their intestines are pulled out of their mouths because, he's got to have more because they ate all the candy. So he just eats it out of them.
Right. As one does.
Yeah. Because,
It's not like it would taste bad or anything.
Yeah. Well, it's 50% poop at that point, but who cares?
It's 0% candy.
And then Billy, or whatever his name is, he puts a candy bar out because he's kind of, scared. And
no, hold on. They're gonna confuse because Billy was the name of the kid who ate
dang
his
it, you're
parents'
right.
intestines candy.
Sorry, no, that was my fault. Yeah, you're right.
And there was another child who is also
The
a
child
Billy,
that
but,
was
I mean,
scared.
we can call him whatever we want.
We'll call him Billy Part 2.
Yeah. Sure.
So Billy Part 2, the child that was scared by his sister and her boyfriend, sets a piece of candy out, and the monster goes and it eats the candy, and it doesn't kill Billy Part 2. Billy does not kill Billy Part 2. Oh no, he's just gonna eat it. And then
Perhaps he will be satiated.
and then close the door spiritually. Did you see that?
And this is a great time to remind us of the monster inside of us all as we all go through this journey of life.
And then their parents come home and they find, the girl and the guy with their intestines out of their mouths, and they scream, and then the story ends.
Yeah.
And then we started the second one, and it was just so terrible that we just had to stop. It was
Yeah,
it
had
was
this
awful.
Great. Oh man, this guy was really something. They picked him up from the local skate park. He had a nice mohawk going. Or what the heck? It wasn't a mohawk. It was like a horrible emo hairstyle though, and he was really just being an absolute retard.
Billy, I'm an idiot. I totally forgot to ask. Did your mother dress up this year?
What?
Point where we had to shut it off.
Yeah, it happens.
That's the first movie.
Yep. That was the first one, and we that was about what 10-15 minutes of watching it, and we
Yeah.
just like, all right, we
Which
can't
was
do this.
It was good. It was a good decision to get out of there. But we still could.
So we moved on to the next one.
And that movie was called The Tall Man. Now, The Tall Man is about this evil creature, but I think it's just a guy.
He drives around in what is that called? A Brinks or a
Brinks security truck.
Yeah.
And, you put one of those up for people at home. You ever seen one of those? But
we'll slap it on there.
Catches people's children. and it's a real problem, you know. And there's this rundown, like, apocalyptic town. You know, they have a shot of Main Street, and there's just like homeless people walking around and stuff.
Our town has been dead for 6 years. It's been dead for 6 years.
Looks fine to me.
At first, we dead. The closing.
And just like the ruins of a vehicle. It's like, wait.
Yeah, people don't use
that around.
normal chairs. They just use seats that they've taken out of vehicles and sit on those.
Oh yeah, they do that. Yeah, they do that as well.
Everyone talked about the tall man all the time because everyone was afraid of him. People were always afraid he'd strike again.
Why does everyone just have car seats for their seats?
And when he did, they thanked their
He's like, hey, look what I got. I got a big old TV.
Anyways, that movie was like kind of good, honestly. It was pretty good, but at the same time, it wasn't really scratching that horror itch, you know? There wasn't a lot of, you know, blood and guts and murder.
What is this movie? Is this a horror movie, Jay? This isn't a horror movie.
It's like a thriller so far.
I know, I want something that's, you know, supernatural, you know what I'm saying?
Within the first 30 minutes or so that we watched it. But I think, from my first impressions at least, that was a pretty good movie at the beginning.
Yeah, it was. The problem was that
there is a graphic birthing scene at the beginning.
push.
Just punch that baby right out.
Yeah, that's what they do. If you can't get that thing out of there, they just go wham. Uh-oh.
Hyper-realistic birth scene activated. So it was kind of slow, but it ramped up a ton, right? And so she goes into the woods and she becomes a wood dweller.
What? I think I'm going to just go into the woods. Become a wood dweller.
Because she saw footprints.
Oh, yeah. Those could be hers, though.
No, because she's... Oh, yeah. No, she's following tracks.
Okay.
But I would prefer your rendition where she just becomes a wood dweller.
Know that.
Almost. Well, we thought she was going to become a wood dweller. Well,
yeah, but she doesn't. And then we were like, this is like a thriller. This isn't like horror. There isn't like a monster. She's like kind of beating the monster if there is a monster. So this doesn't count. We need a monster that kills everybody, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't like horrifying. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's why we didn't want to. There wasn't that blood and guts element.
So we searched and searched for the perfect movie.
Across the 7 seas of Amazon Prime, and finally came across greatness.
Perceived greatness.
Yeah, and that greatness could only be summed up in the title.
4 words.
We watched a movie about cannibalistic, homeless, underground dwellers,
AKA
also known as
Chuds.
So when we came across in all big capital letters, Chud, we had to at least take a gander.
Beneath the streets of New York City, there are hundreds of miles of subterranean tunnels unfit for anything human, unauthorized for anything experimental, and unlikely to come to the surface. Until now. Something horrible is loose in the sewers of Manhattan, and the city's homeless population has begun to mutate into cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
Oh!
And
a gander we took.
You know, perceived greatness is a great way to capture what we thought going into that movie. Because I knew, I was like, there's no way this could be terrible.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing.
Chuds.
Yeah, here's the thing. We're like, it's called Chud. I mean, you said it yourself. We entered paradise.
It only took 2 hours,
We did
But
it.
we've entered paradise.
We found it. 5.6
All
on
right.
IMDb. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my word. I expect nothing less than perfection.
The greatest of the greatest is what I'm ready.
Yeah.
Here's what we thought was paradise. Because here's the thing. It's called Cannibalistic Homeless Underground Dwellers. That's the greatest title I've ever heard of in a movie. And then the opening scene, a woman is walking her dog and just gets sucked into the sewer by a chud. What did I miss?
Oh, it's over now. Oh no! Whoa! How did it know she was there?
The vibrations of her footsteps.
Oh, of course. Judd.
Dude, that's an amazing way to begin it. Finally, some action.
Uh-huh.
Man.
Yeah.
It's great. Like,
you see this like little costumed lizard claw come out and snag her.
yeah, and
from
then
the
they introduce the characters, of course, so that's not very that's a slower thing. And then what happens? A woman's walking around. Like, this is another piece of greatness that we thought we were seeing.
Oh yeah, there was the cardboard box scene, and that was one of the greatest things ever. Was the boxes were getting jumbled around a bunch, and she's like, "What the heck's going on?" She's,
What are you doing?
It was just a trash geyser.
Yeah. This is a normal phenomenon in New York.
Oh my word, it's human remains.
I only
And a
saw
bottle of whiskey.
Wait,
it was just
yeah.
an empty bottle of whiskey and human remains.
I thought that was just normal New York, Chicago, any of those places.
it's like a bystander walking along, and that character didn't even show up for like the rest of the movie.
Nope, she's just a random person.
Human remains and an empty bottle of whiskey. and that's it. And
that's-
an end scene. That guy had a rough time.
Yeah.
Maybe
that's
he
just-
became a chud. Maybe he just was bones.
Yeah,
Hard to
well,
say.
here's the thing. I don't understand why you'd freak out. I figured that would be a normal occurrence in New York City or something.
Human remains under some cardboard boxes with a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah. And then yeah, there was one other thing where they nabbed the bag lady.
Yeah, the bag lady.
I'm about to interrogate a bag lady we just nabbed on a charge of petty theft.
Not bad.
The bag lady that we just nabbed.
That's incredible. That's a new name for a type of person.
Nabbing a bag lady.
What we got here? She tried to lift my gun. I nabbed it. All by
Bag
Oh, there's a bag lady if I've ever seen one.
And that's literally just a homeless woman who carries around bags.
That was the
with a
technical
black soot
definition.
face. They all have black soot faces down
Yes.
there. That's how you know you're dealing with an underground dweller.
Yeah, and then there's that scene where that guy's like laying there with that wound in the sewers, and they like start dabbing his head.
Oh yeah, it's like, what are you trying to do with that lady? That's not gonna help at all.
Did you get it? Did you get the gun?
What's she dabbing his forehead for? I don't think that's gonna do much.
You don't want him to sweat; it'll get dirty.
Because he's just covered in dirt. Just dabbing his forehead.
Unfortunately, the entire movie, except for those like 3 scenes, was incredibly slow and
Oh man,
painful. Jay, this is a serious movie. You need to watch this. We should have just stuck with the anthology.
They've swindled us.
They swindled us.
We were promised riveting action. Chuds.
I wanted an army of chuds fighting an army of Navy SEALs in the middle of the sewers.
Yeah, we're just like, come on, let's get going with it. You know, we got these chuds we got to deal with, and nobody else wanted to. They were just taking the easy approach. It's like, we know there's chuds, okay, and our characters don't know that there's chuds at the moment, so it's frustrating, you know, watching them discover the chuds, you know, when we knew they were there all along.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took a little too long to build up, so we watched it for like, I mean, we wasted like what, an hour?
Oh, an absurd amount of time, because we thought something great would happen and nothing happened. The craziest thing that happened in that scene is a bunch of guys went into a sewer with flamethrowers.
Forget it. If it isn't saying hello, I don't care what it is.
This is ridiculous. We're wasting time. Tell them to speed it up. Radiation level going up.
I see something. They're in the flames.
Are you crazy? Nothing could possibly survive in... Radiation level going up.
Parker? Parker? Parker!
You know how much paperwork I'm gonna have to fill out now?
4 spec ops guys just perished.
You don't bring a flamethrower into a sewer, you'll blow the place up, and they're just like blowtorching this chud, but they just get killed because like they have this little camera recording it, and they just get killed.
That's so awesome though, the concept of just putting cops in the sewer with flamethrowers. Yeah, this will solve all our problems.
We just gotta blow up the sewers.
Yeah, there's some guy walking in there with a camera, of course, and oh man, when he's like, get my man out of there, and it's like, your guy has a camera, mine has a flamethrower.
Yep, it was great, except it was really slow for like 50 out of the hour minute, 50 minutes out of the hour. It was slow.
There's also a scene where there's a guy at a telephone.
Oh yeah. You just eat that quarter? What are you supposed to do if that happens? Well,
and he just stands there and stares at the guy and then walks away.
That might be the best scene in the entire movie. I don't think anything gets better than that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you know, I thought he handled it pretty well.
You did. Just kind of stood there like, what? And then, yeah.
Exactly what we thought. Wow.
But yeah, man.
Is that it for Chuds? Was there anything else?
I mean, there was other stuff, but I mean, by and large, it didn't like make us it didn't increase our attention, you know?
Oh yeah,
that was the problem.
A lot of dry moments.
Yeah, it was just like drama. Who cares about drama? I want to see some chuds.
Like the woman getting pregnant storyline. Get that out of here. That doesn't belong in a chud movie.
Exactly. These are chuds we're talking about. We ain't talking about pregnant ladies. Come on.
So we needed more chuds. And just an hour of people that we don't care about doing a bunch of stupid crap that no one cares about. Just annoying.
Yeah, they needless to say, we had to find something else.
Yeah, and I think we finally landed in the right spot.
Yep.
With